Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen. And my guest today is Melissa Lands.
Lambs.
Okay. And we're going to be talking about food and diet and how all of this is really the basis for your health, even though you don't want to admit it. So, Melissa um, is a recipe developer. She is committed to using the best ingredients possible in her kitchen, and she is the creator and founder of the Fresh 20, a former cooking instructor, television writer, and 15-year internet professional. Melissa believes health starts in the kitchen, and unprocessed food is the path to wellness. So, welcome, Melissa, and
Hello. It's
I'm
also
looking forward.
true. Food. Food is the way. I feel like my kids watch a show called The Mandalorian, and it's always like, this is
Oh
the
yeah.
way. And I'm like, food is the way. Yeah, oh man. I have been like teaching people and giving people resources on food for the last 13 years and probably all my life if I really wanted to look at it.
Hmm.
I had a really bad relationship with food when I was younger and growing up and a teenager, and um, a really bad relationship with food. And I was raised, my mom worked for Litton Microwaves, which people don't
Oh
even know what
no.
it is anymore, but they were like the
Yes,
original microwave
that's
company.
right. I
And
remember that.
so
Yeah.
I ate a lot of microwave food. My mom only knew how to cook like five things. So I had to slowly, as like I hit every single decade, like reevaluate and check in and kind of upgrade and up level my relationship with food until
Yeah.
finally I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this for everyone. Like I want people to eat better.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I really do think that health starts in the kitchen,
Hmm.
especially as we start to age, because um, I can tell you just like from I've had as I was mentioning before, we've had over
Hmm.
200,000 subscribers in the Fresh 20
Yeah.
in the last 13 years. And I have an amazing community of people that really do want to do better at their kitchen
Uh-huh.
table. And they really want the resources. And what I found is as I've grown up with my audience, they're aging with me as well. And now the conversation is less about like healthy eating for their kids and more like, okay, like I need something's happening to me, something's happening to my
Yeah.
body. Like, how do I use
Yeah.
food to combat aging, to combat what's happening?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like a conversation that I'm so happy to talk about today because I think it's really
Yeah.
important. And we can look at all of the other things in life, but food is like the number one instigator to disease, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and in the opinion of a lot of studies and a lot
Yeah.
of
Oh
doctors.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah.
important. It's important to figure out, okay, is there a change in lifestyle that we have to make? Do we have to make
Mm.
changes to our diet as we start to
Mm.
get older? Um,
Hmm.
I think yes. I think,
Hmm.
making a change to your diet might mean having to give up things that you enjoyed
Right.
before that might not have been as
Yeah.
detrimental to your body, but now they're presenting problems. And listening to our body as we age, there's no better way than to say, okay, I get it. Like I cannot have croissants anymore. Like it just destroys
Yeah.
me, right? Or whatever
Yeah.
it may be.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cake with ice cream, you know.
Yeah, I think ice cream is just a straight, as much as I love it, it's a straight no for
Yeah.
me at this point.
Uh-huh.
But thankfully, because our society is getting on board that like not everybody can have dairy, thankfully there are so many
Thank
good vegan
you.
ice cream makers, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
It's that
Oh
thing
yeah.
of still the same things that people have wanted to teach their kids, right? And what we've been teaching for years in the Fresh 20 is there's a correlation between what you eat and how you feel. And we drill that into children's brains of like, make good choices and don't no, maybe one scoop of ice cream is enough. Maybe we don't have to have the whole pint. Like you make, and then I feel like you kind of forget for yourself as you get older that a lot of things that you're feeling, a lot of the aches that you experience, a lot of the inflammation that might be happening in your system, we forget, oh, that's right. I need to check in on my diet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can attest that, something as simple as allergies, which I have a lot of food allergies, they change.
Yeah.
There are things that I was allergic to, 15, 20 years ago that I'm not anymore. They don't bother me. But there's a whole other list that I can't eat anymore.
Yeah.
So it changes as your body changes.
It does. It does change.
Yeah.
And taking stock of like having that relationship, and especially like really solidifying that bond between your mouth and your
Yep.
belly, like, that your taste buds
like
and your
that.
gut,
Yeah.
like, and saying, okay, it's okay to indulge every once in a while, but indulge knowing how it's going to make you feel and how it's going to affect the next 72 hours of your life, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
I feel this so much when I have, okay, I know that have a wheat allergy, but I'm going to tell you, like, I am, if my last meal was bread and butter, I would be a happy person. Like, I cannot get enough bread and butter. I love it, but I don't have it a lot, in my life, just because I know what it does to me. And it's so crazy. I even start thinking, like, if I'm going to go to a yoga class, I'm like, I can't have any bread products and no carb products like the day before, because if I do, I'm crushed. Like I can hard, like it's my I can't rotate. I can't. And we sometimes don't understand. You're like, oh, I woke up feeling a little funny. And you're like, well, check what you ate yesterday, because chances are it has something to do with what you consumed, and your body is taking on the brunt of that. Like it's trying to absorb nutrients, it's trying to, and things are firing off, and you have less internal protection now in your gut and than you did 20 years ago. And that's just what happens aging. Like our levels start to drop across the board, and so does the lining of our gut starts to change, especially if we're feeding it food that so it's really, listen, you can't entirely prevent like inflammation as we grow older, but you can manage it with food. And a lot of people switch to medication. Like they're like, I'm just going to take a med. And it's like, please try food first, because food is the best medicine that is readily available, that you can control, that wasn't made in a lab. And so, yeah, I'm really passionate about how food can kind of, it can really give you energy, and it can give you the it's like a vital force that we need as we start to get older. And so I'm really passionate about what food can do for you, and especially to avoid medication and to still like live a vibrant life and do the things that you have always done.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think that there are still, even in this day and age, a lot of people who don't understand food sensitivities and food allergies.
Yeah.
And number one, they think, oh, I've eaten it for the last 20 years, and so I should still be able to eat it. And it's like, nope, wrong. Take that one off.
Yeah.
And it's always the last thing they look at.
Yeah, I think that's part of like not listening to the body, right? And it's like, I think we as a society, we overeat, we overportion, and we have so many things on the market to tell us it's okay to do that. Just drop an antacid, or, like it's gonna be fine. But it's like you're dropping an antacid because you gave yourself things that your body couldn't adjust to. And so I
Yeah.
think that when you listen to what those things are and you just really say, okay, I ate, you know, I mean, it took me like 5 years to realize that there was one particular kind of beans that made my body not feel well. And because I was like, I don't understand why I don't feel good. Like, I don't have like beans are not a thing for me, but there's just one type of bean that I cannot eat. And I was like, I wonder, but it took me a while to like
Yeah.
listen. And because I was just ignoring, I'm like, I'm not allergic to beans. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, you know, I live in Southern California. There's
Wrong.
no way I'm not having beans. but but it took a while. So I think when you listen, it's really important.
Yeah.
And one thing that I always, so we do this thing in the Fresh 20. We have something
Uh-huh.
called a mind body reset. And the mind body reset, it's not supposed to be a diet. It's supposed to be an elimination of the things that typically
Right.
upset your gut. So we take out
Mm-hmm.
all gluten, all dairy, and all sugar for
Mm-hmm.
4 weeks so that our body can really like just clear out of all of the things that are constantly giving like little messages of like, oh, I don't feel good. Oh, I have gas. Oh, I have indigestion. Oh, my body aches,
Mm-hmm.
that we ignore, right?
Right. Yeah.
Take all of those things back, take them away, and then our
Mm-hmm.
bodies like starts firing on all cylinders. We fill it with hydration, we fill it with like fresh fruits and vegetables, like really, but just taking out dairy, sugar, gluten,
Uh-huh.
then we slowly, if we want, bring those things back into play,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
immediately, and not all together, like one at a
Oh
time,
no.
like a
Right.
little bit of sugar in your coffee, then, and immediately your body has a reaction to it. And people are amazed because they're like, I never knew that
Yeah.
sugar affected me in that way. I never knew that dairy made me feel like that because we're just eating it without thinking
Uh-huh.
mindfully about what it is, right? But
Yeah.
once you
Yeah.
remove it for 4 weeks and then you put it back in, your body's like, it
Yeah.
tells you immediately, nope, I don't like that. Or it says, yeah, that's okay, you know? And
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting. Sugar, and if we were going to talk about those three things as far as
Uh-huh.
aging
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's fine.
inflammation,
Let's go for it.
sugar, right? We don't, we forget how sugar affects the human body. But we all remember seeing those kids that they had sugar and then they went crazy, right? We all
Yeah.
know those we've seen it happen in our lives many times where you're like somebody a kid has sugar and then they're just like off
Bouncing off the wall.
like
Right. Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Why do we think that as we get older that sugar effect is not happening to us? What's happening to us is that we're building up a tolerance for it, right? So that it becomes
Okay.
a little bit less and less and less of a reaction, but it doesn't mean that it's less detrimental to your body. It
Uh-huh.
just means that your body is saying, okay, like I'm trying to find ways to handle this sugar. And so I'm not going to be hyper anymore. Now I'm going to be depressed, right? Now sugar is going to make, because your body, the machine that is your body
Yeah.
is trying to figure out what to do with this element that you're putting into it, right? But it
Right.
still has
Uh-huh.
an effect. And I think we
Yeah.
forget, if we don't have that same reaction, we think, oh,
Yeah.
sugar doesn't bother me. But what some people don't recognize is that sugar can do the exact opposite, right? It can make your
Mm.
body like hyper internally and then bring down your mental state and make you like give you a
Ah.
little bit of depression or fog or things like that.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
always have to be checking in on what's happening. And then the same with gluten or dairy, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
go off the dairy for 10 days and then go back and then have a scoop of ice cream and tell me that it doesn't have an effect on your body, your you know your
Yeah.
hands when you move, like when you're moving your hands. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it can make some people, it makes their hands swell, some
Yep.
people it just gives them like internal aches, but it does have an effect on a majority of people. So I think it's really important to consider the diet and to remember that like the goal of like aging is to feel as good as possible for as long as possible, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Inflammation is one of those things that makes us not feel good in so many different
Yeah.
ways. And adopting an anti-inflammation diet is so important as we age. It's so important as we age. I would say that and then, some studies that have been going on and a lot of conversations with, the nutritionists and everything and my peers, they really believe that inflammation, and studies are showing that inflammation is a leading cause of disease.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
I mean, if we want to feel as good as we can for as long as we want, don't we
Yeah.
have to look at how inflammation is affecting our bodies
Uh-huh.
as we age? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and it's hard because I always imagined that I was going to get to a point in life where I was going to be like, I can eat anything I want because I deserve it. I'm not trying to fit into anything. I like, I'm just imagining this point where I'm a woman, I'm on my porch, I have my purple hat, and I'm doing whatever, and I
I
can eat
love it.
whatever I want, right? Like I'm
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I just have to think to myself, like, yeah,
Wrong.
that's not necessarily how it's going to go, right?
Wrong.
And so I think you know, there's a trade-off, and it's not that big of a trade-off if you just make some small tweaks
Mm-hmm.
to your
Mm-hmm.
diet. You
Mm-hmm.
still can enjoy and make memories with food and enjoy food. There's
Yeah.
so much good food. Like,
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, there's 2,500 varieties of I'm just thinking like in a produce company, like a Melissa's produce company, I think they have
Uh-huh.
2,700 SKUs of fresh produce. 2,700
Wow.
different SKUs. So you cannot tell me that, like, oh, there's nothing to eat if I go on a anti-inflammation diet, like I won't be satisfied. Once you get off of that for a little while, your body stops
Uh-huh.
craving it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It stops doing
Absolutely.
it. So, and plus, like,
Absolutely.
cherries, blueberries, strawberries, all anti-inflammation,
Yeah.
like really good, things for
Yeah.
anti-inflammation.
Yeah.
Snack on those. Nuts and seeds, amazing for
Right.
anti-inflammation.
Yeah.
Snack
Yeah.
on something like that. Fatty fish like salmon is really good. If you do the
Oh yeah.
sardines, tuna, healthy oils,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that we could be doing. Um, I don't think anybody's life is going to be over if they have to give up soda and fried food.
That's true. See,
I'm going to say it.
that was, yeah.
I'm going to just put it out there. I promise your life will not end if you have to give up soda, fried food, maybe red meat. I don't know. It depends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Well, it's,
cookies.
yeah. Well, I know just personally that, no, well, number one, I never liked soda. I was a very strange little kid because Coca-Cola, oh God, just the thought of it, I still can't, I couldn't drink it under any circumstances. Just the taste of it, just, um, but it is kind of funny because as the other thing that happens is as we age is that our bodies can't, we give our bodies too many calories to actually use because we're not efficient. We're now, the older you get, the less efficient. I mean, you and I talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
You just get, and you think, oh, well, I used to eat da 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 da, and I felt fine. It's like, well, yeah, and your point
Yeah.
is,
It's like you can't anymore.
are you still
I used
30
to be
years
able to read
old?
a
Oh
magazine that was
no.
right here too.
Thank you. Exactly. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. You know, there's so much in our there's so much presented to us through societal communication and media and everything else
Mm.
about food and about it's like you can have anything you want and then you can just diet it away or
Yeah.
and I think
Like,
that it's just
no.
such the wrong message to send. And but we're all indoctrinated into this idea that we should be able to eat all of these things that are really bad for us
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, they've been thrown in our face our entire life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's hard. I'm not discounting that it's hard to change your diet or to I know it's hard. I mean, I absolutely
Absolutely.
struggle. If somebody came
Yeah.
to my house right now with a wheel of brie and a fresh French warm baguette, then I would literally excuse myself from this podcast and I would go and stick my face in it. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I am not saying that it's not hard sometimes, but I think the more that we can make conscious choices about food, that we can have more leafy greens, that we can have nuts as a snack instead of chips, where we can, give up, if for people that are soda drinkers, give up soda for, a flavor for, lemon in your water, lime in your water, coconut,
just special occasions or something.
If you
have
can
a soda,
do all of those things. I mean, we have never been a soda household, so the only time that we have soda is at the movies. So literally, even if you come to my house for a party, there's no soda here. So, but it becomes something that it's actually special. It's like we're going to the movies today and we're having popcorn and a soda, and that's like but it's like twice a year, so I'm not saying give up everything forever in perpetuity and never enjoy, but I want to feel good every day. I want to be able to do my yoga class without like feeling my muscles tense and the inflammation in my internal swollen. I want to be able to go on a walk with my husband and not have pain in my ankles and my belly is, I want to go through the day without a bloated belly, without my belly just like bloated and working overtime. And like you said, I think part of it, it's not just the food, but part of it is also the portions. I think when I first met my husband, he comes from a Iowa meat and potatoes family, right? And portions to him were like a 12-ounce steak was a dinner. And when I started the Fresh 20, and our portion sizes for meats and proteins is 4 ounces. And I remember the first few times I like started cooking for him with like more of a balanced plate, more of, a meal that was not, tons of calories. He was like, where's the rest of it?
Is that like, just the first course
like
you gave him, right?
Round? What's happening here? But it's really interesting because we've been together now almost 24 years. And he has such a thank you. In LA, might I add?
Yeah,
like,
I know. I know exactly.
California to be married. That seems like I feel like we support the divorce rate. Our state is like really crazy.
I think so, yeah.
But now he looks at it and he really understands that if he eats 12 ounces of steak, he is going to be really sick. Like he's not going to feel good. And it takes time, it takes time of saying, well, why don't you just try to have like a meal that only has that? Why don't you just try to, if you go to a restaurant and it has, huge portions, I always split with someone because I know I'm not going to eat it. But even if you don't want to split, why not just try asking for another plate, taking half of it off and eating the half that's on your plate first before you finish the plate. So that you can go home and still feel good and not feel like, you don't have to tumble home. You don't have to like, walk because you're like, oh, I'm so full. Like that is not what our bodies intended by having this mechanism that we could eat and digest. Our bodies did not mean, oh, I'm so full. Like what like that's just crazy that is a normal happenstance in our lives with food that we eat to be overfull. So I agree with you on the portion thing because I think that as we get older, reducing our portions, but making those portions matter is really important.
Right.
Not reducing our portions by getting rid of meals or, eating like a bird, right? We're not reducing our portions to eat bird seed, right? But we are reducing our portions to have more of the good things like the leafy greens, like the seeds, like the, the berries and the things with the antioxidants, and eating less of the things that are going to really weigh us down. So you can live a fully vibrant life with, 3 meals a day and a snack and still be under like 1,400 calories, which is always I'm always aiming for without, I'm not a calorie counter, but I know now that I don't like to eat more than my hand. I just know that. Like if it whatever fits in my hand is what I am willing to eat. So I literally can go like that on a plate and look at it and just say, okay, that's too much, or I may need something else. But I use my hands to do that. I feel like it's the best tool that I have because it's attached to my size.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a very good
just
point.
One of the things that one of the crazy things that I do.
Yeah, well, you have a bigger hand than I do, so yeah.
So I get to eat more.
Exactly. I know. You're probably taller than I am too, I bet.
I probably am. I don't know how tall you are, but I think I'm considered tall.
Okay. Yeah. I know I'm not as tall as I was.
So what is there a way that we can fix that?
That?
Like, I mean, all this research that we do, and we're still shrinking.
Sit up straight. That helps. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. But I don't know. I think it's just part of being on this planet a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Things not only wear down, they wear out.
Yeah.
If you're not careful.
Yeah. The compression factor and everything, but it's just like
just from gravity, right?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, listen, I'd rather be shorter and healthy and than tall
alive
and have less longevity, right? Longevity is it becomes really, really important as you want to see your kids come into their full fruition, or if you have more things to do on the planet that you are really happy about. I think that longevity is something that people just don't think about until they're in their 50s. And some people don't even consider it until
after that. I was going to say, especially these days. And I think, and you and I kind of talked about this a little bit before we got on the recording, but I think women start to feel it in their 50s, mostly because of menopause starting. And men don't really feel it till they get in their 60s. And it isn't that it hasn't started. It's just something to do with I don't know whether it's all procreation or what, but it is interesting, the differences.
Yeah, we were talking about before, like I just think that the changes that women start to experience happen physically, mentally, emotionally. And I just think that it's a little different for men because I think, again, my belief that they're not really recognizing it until it hits them physically, right? Not quite the same. And then the physical acknowledgement that something's changing, I think then triggers for them the mental and emotional. But I think for women, we go through a bodily process that emotionally and mentally affects us first, right? And then and then the physical is like the end cap. It's like let me just end cap this experience with giving you some physical changes, mainly around Billy.
Right. Oh no, exactly. Yeah. It is kind of funny because for some women as well, I mean, you hit menopause and it's like, great, I don't have to deal with a period anymore. you know, and men don't have that kind of demarcation line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's as much can't think of what the right word is, but it happens slower and a little
It's
bit
more
at
subtle.
a time. Thank
It's
you.
more subtle. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's more subtle until they wake up one day and like they, you know, go and do something that they've done their whole entire lives and they've been really, really good at
Yeah,
it. And now somebody else does it better and they're faster and they can't keep up. And then they're like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
What's happening? And then it starts this whole entire, you know, mental exercise of, oh my God, I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting older. Yeah, I could have told you that. Yeah, you are getting older.
It's like, yeah, yeah, you are. And if you wait a couple more years, we'll just say you're old. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it is, I mean,
So,
it is
yeah.
interesting how and again, like I'm so bought into the idea that food can help in every way, not just physically, but just also mentally, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
um it's 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 so important and you can start to see like the things that will
Uh,
will change your mood,
yeah.
will
Oh,
change your
yeah.
energy level.
Yeah.
And then also too, like I feel like we don't get enough sleep.
Oh,
Um,
for
so
sure.
that our body can actually restore.
Real
And
sleep.
people think, oh, you know, you get older and you think, oh, you're not sleeping as much, or some people are like, they're like, oh, my clock is ticking, like I don't want to sleep as much, like I want to, you know.
Mm,
But the reality
wrong.
is that the more sleep that you can get, the more you're firing on all cylinders when you're actually
Yeah.
awake. And I think that food plays a part of that too. Like I think, you know, especially as you get
Mm-hmm.
older, eating close to bedtime is not a great idea.
Right. Agree.
Um,
Especially
it's
sugar or any of those kind of things that
yeah. I
rev
mean,
your
I would
engine
say
up.
anything like after I
Yeah,
think
I
three
agree.
hours before you go to sleep, you should stop eating
Yeah.
completely and just have
Yeah.
water. Um, I think that our body, you don't want your gut to be the thing that your sleep energy is going to the entire night, right? If you think about sleep, right? You want to sleep, you want to restore, you want all of your, you want your cells to like
Mm-hmm.
regenerate. So you wake up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So that you have a clear
Yeah.
mind and, you know, a beating heart and everything, and you have energy. But just imagine like you're eating an hour before you go to bed. So instead of your body working on, you know, like regenerating
Uh-huh.
cells and rest and
Right.
restoration, it's literally
It's
all of that
digesting food.
energy while you're sleeping is going to
Yeah.
digesting. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think
Yeah.
it's not a great idea. Um, and again, I think everybody's got to find their own cadence.
Oh my God,
And
yeah.
I think that experimenting and seeing so
Mm-hmm.
that you can see for yourself, right?
Right.
So never just believe me or you or even
Yeah.
your doctor,
Oh
like
yeah.
try it for yourself. So, you know,
Yeah.
try a week
Yeah.
with stopping eating, you know, at, you know, before three to
Uh-huh.
4 hours before you go to bed
Yeah.
and see, do you sleep better? Do you wake
Yeah.
up better? Test it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
tell everyone, the other thing I wanted to say about food is the quality of your ingredients matters. Um,
Mm.
it's very, very important to try to get is the best quality that you can afford. Um, and but I always tell everyone with food, and if you don't believe me about the quality of things, you know, you take a oh my gosh, the salt with the
Mm.
umbrella girl on it.
Oh yeah.
You know
I
which
know which one
salt
you
I'm
mean.
talking about? Like
Yeah.
I grew up on that
Yeah.
salt. If you
Yeah.
take that salt and you take a sea salt or any
Mm-hmm.
type of
Mm-hmm.
a kosher salt or a sea salt or
Right. Not processed.
all those, and you taste them side by side, you will understand what I mean when I say that the umbrella girl salt is literally meant to be in your bathroom for your feet. You should not put it in food.
I would
And
agree.
everyone's like,
I
well,
would
I
agree.
use that salt all the time. And I was like, just do the experiment. Just tell me if you taste
Yeah.
that salt and you taste any other natural sea salt or kosher salt, or if you taste the difference, and you still don't like, because it tastes like a chemical, right?
Yeah.
And and I think you should do that with everything. Taste test, figure out what you like, figure out,
Yeah.
how your body is working, figure out what does give you inflammation, do little
Uh-huh.
tests all the time so that you can
Yeah.
constantly be
Yeah.
optimizing, right? Because that's all we're trying to
Uh-huh.
do as we start to age. We're trying to optimize our experience,
Right.
optimize our body's efficiency,
Mhm.
optimize its output and its energy. And to do that, you have to treat it like a science project, right? You can't just say, okay, you're right, Melissa, I'm not going to have any more gluten. Well, maybe gluten's not the thing that bothers you, right? So you've got to
Yeah.
constantly be
Mhm.
testing and figuring
Mhm.
out what works for me, what makes
Oh
me
yeah.
feel good, and then keep
That's right.
track and then
Mhm.
constantly be checking in and making sure that
Yeah.
that continues to make you feel good. Because, like you said, we can go in and out of allergies all the time.
Oh my God, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're
Oh
just
my
about
gosh,
out
I'm
of
like, have
time
I
because
said
I
too much? I
promised.
know. I can
No,
you tell I'm
no, you're
passionate about
fine.
this
No,
subject?
no, I'm just you're the one who has a hard stop, so that's why I'm so let's see. In 25 words or less, tell me what the Fresh 20 is.
So the Fresh 20 is an unprocessed meal planning service that uses only 20 fresh ingredients a week to make 5 weeknight dinners.
Oh,
So
interesting.
the
Okay.
idea, it's been around since 2010. The
Hmm.
idea was that I was coming up against when my children were younger was I was going to the grocery store and buying, you know,
Mm,
80 ingredients
lots
and then
of
coming
food.
home,
Yeah.
and then stuff was a science project at the end of the week. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what. And people were telling me that, like, Whole Foods was whole paycheck, and that healthy eating was elitist. And I was like, healthy eating is not elitist. Like, there's ways that you can do this. You just have to make a plan for it week after week.
Yeah.
So we make the plan against
Okay.
many
Okay.
different categories. And so
Uh-huh.
it's just a resource for people to use that they want to eat
Yeah, a
unprocessed.
structure.
Yeah,
A
a structure.
structure. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Which most people need for almost anything in their lives, including their diet. So don't even get me started on that one. Um, so that's great. And did I see that you have a book somewhere or not? Or just a
I
website?
do. I have the Fresh
Okay.
20 cookbook.
Okay.
And it's 16 weeks. It covers
Uh-huh.
all 4 seasons. So it has 4 different
Okay.
meal plans for each season. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's
That's
a
good.
it's a great cookbook just
Yeah.
for just kind of experimenting with what
Uh-huh. Like
eating
a reference.
unprocessed food, right? Like just getting off of
Yeah.
takeout, getting off of, processed
Uh-huh.
food and convenience
Yeah.
food, but still eating and building. And if you only use 20 ingredients, what you cook on Monday goes into like stuff that you use for the rest of the week. So it's like a
Hmm.
puzzle, right? Every week. Like,
Yeah.
name that tune. Like how many notes
Yeah.
does it like how many ingredients does it take to make 5 weeknight dinners? And it's like 20 was the answer. So
All right. All right. Good deal. Okay. So that sounds good. So I will put that and your website. I assume you can get it on Amazon, or can
yeah.
they
Oh
get it
yeah.
at your website as well?
No, Amazon is great.
Amazon. Okay. And okay. And like I say, I'll put your I'm sure I've got it somewhere here. No, actually I don't. I'll get that from you for
Awesome.
your website, and I will put that in the show notes as
Awesome.
well.
Awesome.
So
This has
everybody,
been fun.
that's where
Thank
you
you for
need to
letting
go.
me ramble about
Oh, that's okay.
anti-inflammation food and getting older. It's
No,
it's
it's
really
important stuff. It's important stuff. And with that, I'm going to say that neither of us are medical professionals, and none of this should be taken as medical advice. And with that being said, I will talk to everybody next week.
fun.